Hey, welcome back to Everyday Economics, the podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, president of the 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network. You can check out all of our great podcasts at americastalking.com. We're recording this episode on Tuesday, March 28th, and joining me as always, my partner, Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, we are on the precipice here of the release of new information on the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index. Why, in your opinion, is this one of the more valuable data points?
I don't think it's one of the most valuable. I just think that the Fed needs to take in all of the information about the U.S. economy and use that information. The more information, the better. So it just so happens that they like the PCE price index, that it does a good job of capturing prices for what Americans are actually spending their money on. And so I think that's important.
So the report is coming out when?
We have another report coming out on Friday this week.
What do you anticipate? I'm going to let you call your shot here since you're such a staunch prognosticator. What do you think's coming out? What are we going to see this week?
Yeah, I think we're going to continue to see annual price growth slowing. So inflation is continuing to tick down. How much is the big question? You have a number of factors that indicate that potentially, I mean, at least historically, we know that uncertainty has caused people to sit on their wallets. In other words, when people are not certain about the future, they're not so sure, they kind of just pull back their spending. Businesses are also likely to face tighter lending conditions due to the recent bank turmoil. And so when that happens, historically, they pull back on investing and on hiring or giving people wage increases, right? And so all of these factors are likely to contribute to a slowing of consumer prices. And so that's kind of what I think that's what we expect. We expect consumer prices to continue to grow at a slower rate, our annual consumer price growth to slow down. And so we expect inflation to continue to tick down. The Fed is actually even, I think, more bearish than I thought when I looked at their projections for where the economy is going to be by the end of the year. I think they expect the economy to grow by only 0.4% in 2023. The closest we get to 0% growth, the higher the risk that the economy contracts, right? And so when I see these projections, perhaps they have more information than the rest of us do, but it seems like they're somewhat bearish about where the economy will end up by the end of this year.
In the last measurement, which this was released about a month ago, so at the end of February, personal income had increased 131.1 billion, or 0.6% in January. And this is from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Okay, disposable personal income increased 387.4 billion, 2%. You and I have talked about people and spending. Do you think that this might be the report where we start to see the brakes being at least tapped by the American consumer and spending coming down a bit?
I think that the increase in income is what supported the spending so far. Yes, we have a lot of people who are tapping into credit card debt. But now with the banking turmoil, I think banks are going to be wary of lending further. We have, income. Yeah, income at the start of the year. We saw a jump in Social Security, for example. Income is keeping consumers afloat. I think that's kind of what my assessment of that was. And I'm going to stick with that. I think we're going to continue to see hiring slow down, wage growth tick down. And with that, I think spending will slow and inflation will also continue to tick down.
One thing I'm not hearing from a lot of companies, and the people that I know that run companies, that you heard 15 years ago during when the housing bubble burst, 2007 into 2008, not only job cuts, but wage cuts, like across the board wage cuts. I'm not hearing anything like that.
No, of course not.
It's different. So I offer this up to you because when you and I are talking, about virtually anything that has to do with the state of the economy today, you and I are sort of like wading through the nonsense of people who are making an equation from 2007, 2008 to today. And it's a very, very different ballgame.
Yeah, completely. We're in a position, we're in an economy that's plagued with insufficient supply. We're not producing enough stuff to absorb all of the demand. And that's why inflation soared above 9% last year, right? And so yeah, we're in a completely different situation. And it doesn't matter where you look, whether you look at the housing market or the labor market, the supply just isn't there. So no, I think what's happening though is that the Fed is doing everything it can to slow down demand and allow supply to catch up. It's happening, right? This inflation is still very much underway. I guess the big question is how much this inflation is coming and how fast. Because, again, we have a situation where you have a ton of uncertainty surrounding the banks, the risk of contagion. And so, all of that uncertainty is likely to play into, the hands of consumers, as consumers might pull back, businesses might also pull back just because they don't have the financing available to continue to expand their operation. So yeah, we're in a very, very different situation from the situation we faced in 2008, where basically, you had mass disinflation. I mean, we had deflationary pressures. Prices were tumbling rapidly. You had a recession that was led by a distress in the housing market that just isn't there today.
For Dr. Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics at americastalking.com.
Freedom and liberty are important to all of us. If you're looking for civil, intellectual conversations with those shaping the future of freedom, try the Future of Freedom podcast with me, Scott Bertram. We speak with leaders across the country in the greater conservative and libertarian movements. In-depth conversations about where the next intellectual battles will happen across the country. It's the Future of Freedom podcast. Find it at americastalking.com or wherever you get your podcasts.